When you don't have money, when every door seems locked, when every pathway looks blocked, and when life feels like it is closing in on you from every direction, there is a powerful truth that will shake your spirit awake. This is not the moment to collapse. This is the moment to rise with a force the world does not expect. This is the moment when God watches you most closely, when God measures the strength of your heart, when God stretches your faith to see what you truly carry within your spirit. The absence of money is never the absence of a possibility. The absence of money is never the absence of destiny. The absence of money is often the very environment where God shapes a person into someone unstoppable. And if you can understand that, if you can grasp that the emptiness in your pockets is not the emptiness of your purpose, everything in your life will begin to shift. There are people who believe money is the beginning of a movement, but God teaches you something far more powerful. The movement begins before the money arrives. The breakthrough begins before anything in your life changes. The blessing begins when the heart transforms. When you don't have money, you are not at a disadvantage. You are at the starting point of divine training. You are standing in the place where God molds warriors. You are standing in the place where God births creators, innovators, givers, leaders. Money is not the foundation. Faith is, conviction is, obedience is. And when everything around you says you should give up, God whispers, stand up, keep going. I am preparing something you cannot yet see. There will be moments in life when poverty tries to speak louder than purpose, when lack tries to shout louder than destiny, when your circumstances try to convince you that your story ends here. But listen carefully. God never writes a final chapter in the middle of your struggle. When you are in the season where you don't have money, God is not distancing Himself from you. He is drawing you into deeper alignment, deeper clarity, deeper discipline, and deeper purpose. This is not a punishment. This is preparation. This is not a setback. This is a shaping. This is not rejection. This is redirection. When you don't have money, the first thing you must do is lift your mind above your situation. The greatest battles do not happen in the bank account. They happen in the mind. Poverty is not defeated by wealth. It is defeated by faith, discipline, vision, courage, and unwavering trust in God. If your mind collapses, your future collapses. But if your mind rises, your life rises. When you stand in a moment where you cannot see a way forward, this is when God urges you to build a vision so strong, so bold, so deeply rooted in faith that no circumstance can weaken it. Your vision must be louder than your environment. Your faith must be stronger than your fear. Your belief must outlast your frustration. The absence of money does not mean the absence of ability. There is something inside you God placed long before you entered this world. A voice that whispers, you were made for more. You were made for greatness. You were made to influence, to rise, to build, to overcome. And when you don't have money, you must reach into that inner reservoir. Money can disappear and return. But faith, wisdom, discipline, and trust are treasures that cannot be stolen. And those who build their strength in seasons of lack are the ones God lifts the highest in seasons of abundance. When you don't have money, do not sit in hopelessness. Do not retreat into self-pity. Do not drown in fear. Instead, begin to create. Begin to move. Begin to think differently. Begin to speak differently. Begin to believe differently. When you have nothing, that is when God challenges you to use everything you still have: your mind, your hands, your energy, your ideas, your discipline, your imagination, your capacity to learn, your resilience. your faith. People often say, when I have money, I'll start. But God says, start now. Start with what you have. Start with what is in your hands. Every great destiny begins with nothing. Every empire begins with an idea. Every breakthrough begins with obedience. Money does not ignite purpose. Purpose attracts money. God does not respond to your lack. God responds to your faith. When you don't have money, you must make a spiritual decision. Do not shrink. Expand. Expand your vision. Expand your capacity. Expand your effort. Expand your discipline. Expand your mindset. Lack tries to make you smaller, but God tells you to grow bigger even in the face of limitation. This is the time to rise before the resources come. This is the time to become unstoppable even when nothing around you confirms that possibility. Because when you move in faith while lacking resources, you are demonstrating something powerful. My strength is not in what I have. My strength is in who guides. When you don't have money, this is the moment to silence every voice of negativity. This is when you must guard your mind like a fortress. Thoughts of doubt will try to choke your spirit. Thoughts of fear will try to weaken your courage. Thoughts of comparison will try to convince you that others are ahead and you are behind. But God is not comparing your journey with anyone else. God is chiseling you into someone rare, someone strong, someone deeply anchored, someone who can carry blessings without breaking under their weight. When you don't have money, God is not testing your wallet. God is testing your heart. Will you still believe? Will you still persevere? Will you still move? Will you still keep your faith alive? Money does not determine your worth, your future, or your destiny. Money is a tool, nothing more. But faith is a force. Vision is a foundation. Discipline is a weapon. And trusting God is the greatest multiplier of them all. When you don't have money, this is the season where you must train your spirit to see beyond the physical world. This is where you learn that life is not governed by what your eyes witness, but by what your heart perceives. God often hides your greatest elevation inside the moments that look like a decline. God often places your breakthrough inside the situations that appear barren. Nothing supernatural ever looks comfortable at the beginning. Nothing divinely orchestrated ever looks logical at first. And nothing crafted by God ever begins in perfection. It begins in obscurity. When you don't have money, God is not pulling you back to destroy you. He's pulling you back like an arrow so that your release will be unstoppable. A bow must bend deeply before it shoots powerfully, and the more God bends you, the farther He intends to launch you. This is why you must not curse your season of lack. You must not resent it. You must not call it the end. Because God does some of His most transformative work in the silence, in the emptiness, in the stripping away, in the hours when you cry in secret and no one sees. That is where He sharpens your discernment. That is where He strengthens your endurance. That is where He stretches your potential. Lack is not a tomb. Lack is a classroom. And those who learn in this classroom become the kind of individuals who cannot be shaken later because their strength was forged in seasons where they had to rely on God alone. When you don't have money, God teaches you the discipline of stillness. The world pushes you to panic, to chase, to run after everything as if your life is falling apart. But God guides you into a deeper truth. Panic blocks clarity, but stillness opens the mind. Desperation blinds you, but faith gives you sight. When anxiety rises, you cannot hear the quiet instructions of God. And often The instructions are small and simple, so simple that you can only perceive them when your spirit is calm. When you don't have money, you must learn to sit in stillness and ask, what is God teaching me in this season? What is God shaping within me? What is God preparing me for? Stillness is not inactivity. Stillness is alignment. It is the moment when your spirit becomes receptive to the subtle guidance God has been trying to reveal. Many people miss their breakthrough because they are too busy trying to escape the discomfort of their current season instead of listening for the divine strategy hidden inside it. When you don't have money, this is when God wants you to sharpen your ears. This is when you must be sensitive to signs, to opportunities, to shifts, to inner promptings. What looks like a dead end may be the beginning of a new path God is whispering into your heart. And then comes another layer of truth. When you don't have money, your creativity becomes your greatest weapon. People who rely on money alone become limited when money disappears. But those who rely on creativity, discipline, resilience, and inspiration from God can never be truly defeated. God places ideas into your spirit that no one else can replicate. God gives you solutions that do not require wealth, only willingness. God opens paths that cannot be purchased, only perceived through faith. Sometimes God withholds money so that you will finally tap into the gifts you ignored. You may think you're empty, but God knows you're overflowing with the abilities, strengths, talents, and ideas you have not used. When you don't have money, this is the time to ask not what do I lack, but what do I carry? What has God hidden inside your life that you have not noticed? What gift is buried beneath your fear? What talent is sleeping inside your doubt? What idea has been whispering to you, waiting for you to take it seriously? When you don't have money, God pushes you to become resourceful. Resourcefulness is a divine trait developed in seasons of lack. It forces you to see value where others see nothing. It forces you to create pathways that others consider impossible. It forces you to appreciate the small beginnings that God loves to bless. Many people pray for increase, but run from the season that prepares them for it. But if you learn to be resourceful when your resources are few, you will be unstoppable when your resources multiply. And let this truth settle deep inside you. When you don't have money, you must master the discipline of consistency. Consistency is what separates those who dream from those who rise. Money does not create discipline. Discipline creates money. Discipline builds opportunities, attracts blessings, and opens doors that talent alone cannot. When you're consistent in your work, even when you are unseen, even when you are unrecognized, even when no one claps for you, God sees. And God rewards consistency far more than He rewards convenience. When you don't have money, the world will tempt you to quit. The world will tempt you to compare. The world will tempt you to believe that your life is behind the schedule. But listen carefully, God does not operate on human timelines. God does not measure your progress by your possessions. God measures your progress by your obedience, your growth, your transformation, your endurance, and your faithfulness in seasons where you could have broken down but chose to rise instead. When you don't have money, you must detach your identity from your circumstance. Many people destroy their spirit by believing they are defined by what they lack. But God sees you in the fullness of what He placed within you, not the emptiness of what you currently hold. Your lack is temporary, but your purpose is eternal. Your emptiness is seasonal, but your destiny is unbreakable. Never confuse your current state with your ultimate future. God does not reveal everything at once because the process is part of the preparation. When you don't have money, you must speak differently. Words carry power. Words carry energy. Words shape reality. When you speak from lack, you create more lack. When you speak from fear, you strengthen fear. But when you speak from faith, even in moments where you see nothing changing, you are aligning your spirit with the ultimate truth that God is working behind the scenes. Speak with the certainty that God is guiding your steps. Speak with the conviction that this season is temporary. Speak with the confidence that your life is being rebuilt, strengthened, and elevated in ways you cannot yet imagine. When you don't have money, protect your environment. Surround yourself with the voices that lift your faith and not drain it. Surround yourself with the people who remind you of possibility, not limitation. You cannot rise in an atmosphere filled with negativity, doubt, and discouragement. When you don't have money, the enemy often uses people to weaken your spirit, but God uses solitude to strengthen it. Do not be afraid if your circle becomes smaller. Sometimes God reduces your circle to increase your clarity. When you don't have money, remember this: God has not abandoned you. Lack is not a sign of abandonment, it is a sign of shifting. Something is being reordered, something is being rebuilt, something is being reshaped, something in your life is being repositioned for a greater outcome. God is not simply preparing a blessing for you, God is preparing you for the blessing. When you don't have money, you must learn the sacred discipline of movement, small movement, quiet movement, consistent movement. Many people freeze when life gets hard. They stop trying, they stop reaching, they stop dreaming, they stop believing. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, the perfect season. But God does not bless stillness, disguised as fear. God blesses movement, born from faith. Even the smallest step becomes a signal to the unseen world that you refuse to surrender to your circumstances. When you move, even when you feel unprepared, even when you don't have resources, you are showing God that your trust is active, not passive. Movement is faith in motion. And when you don't have money, this is the season where humility becomes your greatest strength, not weakness strength. God elevates those who are humble enough to learn, humble enough to start small, humble enough to work quietly, humble enough to grow in the shadows before the world ever sees them. Pride collapses in seasons of lack, but humility rises. Pride resists help, but humility receives wisdom. Pride demands recognition, but humility embraces development. Pride seeks shortcuts, but humility strengthens foundations. When you don't have money, choose humility, because humility allows God to shape you without resistance. In this season, you must also learn the discipline of gratitude. Gratitude may seem like a contradiction when you are struggling, but gratitude is a key that unlocks energy, clarity, and spiritual strength. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is missing to what is possible. Gratitude reminds you that even in your darkest season, God has not removed His hand from your life. Gratitude turns your heart from bitterness to openness, from frustration to expectation. When you don't have money, be grateful for the vision God is birthing within you. Be grateful for the lessons He is teaching you. Be grateful for the strength He is building in you. Gratitude is not denial, it is direction. It guides your spirit toward abundance long before abundance appears. But there is another truth, a deeper truth. When you don't have money, this is the time when God trains you to detach from instant gratification. The world is addicted to quick results, fast solutions, easy shortcuts, and comfortable escape routes. But God develops people who can endure, who can commit, who can persist without collapsing. When you don't have money, God is breaking the hold of impatience over your life. He is teaching you to trust the slow unfolding of destiny. He is teaching you to appreciate the process. He is teaching you to honor the pace He has chosen for your transformation. Do not rush what God is building. If you force what is meant to grow slowly, you distort its purpose. If you abandon what is meant to shape you, you weaken your foundation. Every great destiny requires time. Every strong character is forged through seasons of pressure. Every spiritually grounded person has been tested by moments where they were forced to walk through life without the safety net of wealth. This is not punishment, this is craftsmanship. God is not delaying you. God is developing you. When you don't have money, this is a time to study what God is revealing to you through the patterns of your life. Patterns speak. Patterns teach. Patterns expose. Sometimes the lack you feel is not just financial, it is spiritual, emotional, or behavioral. And in moments of financial pressure, God often reveals deeper truths, habits that must break, perspectives that must shift, relationships that must end, or disciplines that must strengthen. Lack is often the spotlight God uses to show you what you have been ignoring. This is not to shame you, it is to prepare you for elevation. When you don't have money, do not shrink your ambition. Many people reduce their dreams when their pockets feel empty. They stop believing they are worthy of big visions. They stop believing they can rise. They stop believing they were chosen for something greater. But this is the moment when your ambition must grow, not diminish. God does not prepare small lives. God prepares significant lives with a far-reaching impact. And if you cancel your vision because of your circumstances, you are rejecting the very path God designed to lift you. When you don't have money, speak life over your destiny. Speak expansion, speak increase, speak progress, speak clarity, speak courage, speak determination, speak resilience. Your voice carries spiritual authority. Your words are seeds. What you speak when you are struggling become the future you will harvest when the struggle passes. Speak as if God is already guiding the way. Speak as if the door is already opening. Speak as if your life is about to shift in ways beyond your imagination. And when you don't have money, do not isolate yourself in shame. Shame is a trap that convinces you that you are the only one struggling, the only one facing difficulty, the only one dealing with the silent battles. But every great person who has ever risen has walked through a season like this. God does not elevate people who have not endured seasons of pressure. God does not lift those who have not been tested. Your struggle is not a sign of a failure, it is a sign of a potential. If you were insignificant, your challenges would be small. The weight of your struggle confirms the magnitude of what God is preparing for you. When you don't have money, treat every day as an investment, not a punishment, not a setback, an investment. Every effort you give is planting seeds. Every discipline you develop is building strength. Every skill you learn is shaping your future. Every step you take is creating momentum. People often underestimate the power of incremental progress, but God multiplies small efforts done with faith and consistency. Your breakthrough is not a random moment of luck. It is the accumulation of every quiet, unseen step you took in obedience. And here is a truth many overlook. When you don't have money, your relationship with the time becomes sacred. Some people waste hours, days, weeks, and months waiting for external change. But those who rise treat time as their highest currency. When you lack resources, time becomes your wealth. Use it to learn, use it to build, use it to strategize, use it to strengthen your discipline. Use it to deepen your connection with God. Time invested in self-development always returns with interest. When you don't have money, you must also learn the sacred art of detachment from people's opinions. Nothing paralyzes the spirit more than fear of judgment. People may misunderstand your struggle. They may mock your beginnings. They may question your decisions. They may underestimate your potential, but God does not require their approval to bless you. God does not need their validation to elevate you. Their opinions carry no spiritual weight. When you focus too much on how they see you, you lose sight of how God is shaping you. Let them talk, let them doubt, let them misunderstand. Your destiny does not belong to them. Your destiny belongs to God. And when you don't have money, this is the season to break the habits that kept you stuck. Poor routines create poor results. Disorganized habits create disorganized lives. When you lack money, you must become more intentional, more disciplined, more structured. God honors those who steward what they have well, even if what they have is little. Discipline is a signal to the divine that you are ready for increase. When you don't have money, this is the season where God invites you into a deeper form of self-mastery. Anyone can feel powerful when life is comfortable. Anyone can feel inspired when resources are flowing. But true strength, true clarity, and true spiritual maturity are forged when you are forced to stand firm without the support of material comfort. This is when your character is tested in ways that reveal who you truly are beneath the surface. When everything external is stripped away, your inner world becomes fully exposed. Your fears, your doubts, your habits, your resilience, your discipline, your determination, your faith. And it is in this exposure that God reshapes you. When you don't have money, you begin to see the truth about yourself. Truth that cannot be ignored. Truth that must be addressed. Truth that leads to deep transformation. You begin to see which habits have held you back. You begin to see which excuses you have used to protect your comfort rather than your destiny. You begin to see which patterns in your life drain your energy rather than expand your potential. God allows this exposure not to shame you, but to cleanse you from the inside. Because before He can elevate your life, He must strengthen the structure of your character so that when blessings arrive, you do not collapse under their weight. And when you don't have money, this is where you learn the sacred discipline of prioritization. You start to see clearly what matters and what doesn't. You stop chasing things that add nothing to your future. You stop entertaining people who drain your spirit. You stop wasting energy on distractions that shrink your potential. You begin to understand that everything in your life must serve a purpose. Every habit must contribute to your growth. Every hour must align with your vision. Every decision must reflect your faith. Poverty is not just a lack of money, it is a lack of direction. But when you gain direction, you begin to rise even before your finances change. When you don't have money, this is also the season when your prayers become more sincere, more focused, more intimate. There is a depth of connection with God that only emerges when you feel vulnerable, when you feel uncertain, when you feel the weight of responsibility pressing against your spirit. In these quiet moments, your heart opens in a way that comfort could never achieve. You begin to speak to God, not with rehearsed words, but with raw honesty. You ask for clarity. You seek guidance. You surrender your fears. You express your longing. And in that vulnerability, you begin to hear the subtle movements of divine direction. This is where spiritual sensitivity is sharpened. When you have nothing superficial to lean on, your inner world becomes more attuned to the presence of God. You begin to sense which opportunities are aligned with your destiny and which are distractions. You begin to discern which voices speak life and which speak doubt. You begin to feel when God is pulling you away from something or pushing you towards something new. Lack removes the noise so you can finally hear. And when you don't have money, this is where God teaches you the discipline of a personal responsibility. Many people blame circumstances, blame society, blame their past, blame their parents, blame their environment. But God calls you to step into a higher level of accountability. You cannot rise while carrying the weight of excuses. You cannot elevate while holding on to blame. You cannot transform while justifying every limitation. God wants you to see that you have power, that you have choice, that you have influence over your direction. You may not control everything that happens around you, but you control what you do with what happens. Responsibility is the birthplace of transformation. When you don't have money, God also teaches you courage. Not the loud, forceful kind of courage that demands attention, but the quiet, steady courage that helps you wake up in the morning even when your heart is heavy. The courage that helps you keep going even when you feel like stopping. The courage that helps you push forward even when no one is cheering for you. The courage that shifts your entire internal world from fear to resilience. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision that fear will not control your steps. And when God sees courage in you, He opens doors no human can shut. When you don't have money, this is your opportunity to rebuild your foundation from a higher consciousness. Many people rise quickly but collapse just as quickly because their foundation was weak, built on ego, comparison, impatience, or fear. But when God allows you to walk through seasons of lack, He is strengthening your foundation so deeply that no storm will be able to shake it later. You learn to depend on discipline, not emotion. You learn to depend on consistency, not motivation. You learn to depend on vision, not circumstances. You learn to depend on God, not the temporary comforts of this world. And when you don't have money, you must stop interpreting the silence of your life as inactivity. You may feel like nothing is changing, nothing is moving, nothing is shifting. But the truth is, God works in silence more than He works in noise. Growth happens underground before it appears above the soil. The seed does its deepest work in darkness. And the foundation of a building is always constructed before the structure becomes visible. Your life is being rebuilt in silence. Your spirit is being stretched in silence. Your opportunities are being rearranged in silence. The silence is not a sign of absence, it's a sign of preparation. When you don't have money, you must resist the urge to escape discomfort through short-term pleasure. Many people self-destruct during this season by turning to habits that numb rather than heal. But God wants you alert, conscious, awake. He wants your mind sharp and your spirit sensitive. He wants you to feel the weight of your calling so you can rise into the fullness of your purpose. Discomfort is not an enemy. It is a messenger telling you that change is necessary, growth is required, and transformation is unfolding. When you don't have money, protect your dreams with a fierce conviction. There will be people who try to convince you that your vision is unrealistic. There will be voices that try to limit your imagination. There will be judgments that try to shrink your ambition. But God did not give your vision to them. He gave it to you, and only you can carry it. Only you can nurture it. Only you can fight for it. The vision within you is not random. It is divine. It is God's fingerprint on your spirit. And when you honor the vision, you honor the one who placed it within you. And now, as we arrive at this moment, understand this with every fiber of your being. The lack of money is never the lack of God's provision, purpose, or power in your life. Every trial, every moment of waiting, every silent struggle has been orchestrated by the divine to prepare you for something far greater than you can yet comprehend. You are not powerless because your bank account is empty. You are not invisible because your circumstances feel heavy. You are not defeated because the world tells you that opportunity has passed. No, God is working in ways that eyes cannot see, in ways that hands cannot grasp, in ways that hearts can only begin to trust. When you don't have money, you are being trained to rise above limitation. You are being disciplined to think beyond your present reality. You are being strengthened to handle abundance without losing your integrity. You are being positioned to become someone whose faith, vision, and discipline cannot be shaken by the fluctuations of this world. This season of lack is not a curse, it is a classroom. It is a forge. It is the very place where God reveals the strength, courage, and resilience that will carry you into your divine destiny. So refuse to shrink, refuse to despair, refuse to listen to the voices of doubt, fear, and comparison. Stand firm in faith, move with discipline, speak with conviction, create with courage, learn with humility. Persevere with determination. Guard your mind, protect your vision, and nurture your connection with God, for the one who has called you is faithful. The moment you begin to act in obedience, even with nothing, you activate the power that multiplies small beginnings into miraculous endings. Remember, money is temporary, but God's purpose is eternal. Money is limited, but faith is limitless. Money can vanish, but the transformation you experience in seasons of lack is irreversible. Do not measure your worth by what you hold in your hands, but by what God holds in your heart. Do not despair because of what is missing, but rejoice because of what is being prepared. Stand in faith, move in obedience, and trust the one who sees, knows, and will never fail you. When you don't have money, do not wait, rise. Do not shrink, expand. Do not despair, believe. Your season of lack is the very soil from which God will grow your greatness. This is the time to prepare, to strengthen, and to align. The blessing is coming. The provision is coming. The opportunity is coming. And when it arrives, It will not only change your life, it will reveal that every moment of patience, every step of faith, every act of discipline was never wasted. God's timing is perfect. God's plan is unstoppable. And your destiny is secure. So rise now. Rise with courage. Rise with faith. Rise with the unwavering certainty that God is orchestrating every detail, even in the silence, even in the struggle, even in the season of having nothing. Your time is coming. Your breakthrough is near. Your life will never be the same. And when it changes, it will be proof that God was with you all along, shaping, preparing, and elevating you for a glory that cannot be measured by money, but only by purpose, by vision, and by faith. If this message has reached you before the 29th of November, understand something deep within your spirit. You are standing in a rare, divinely timed moment that was not meant for everyone. This is not a coincidence, not an accident, not a random encounter. This is spiritual signal sent by God, a sign that the heavens have aligned something on your path that your heart has been secretly praying for. If these words appear before your eyes now, it is because God has chosen to interrupt your ordinary routine, break into your atmosphere, and awaken something in your soul that has been waiting to rise. There are millions who will scroll without seeing, millions who will hear without understanding, millions who will let this pass by without realizing the significance, but not you. Because God does not call those who are not prepared. God does not whisper to those whose season has not arrived. And God does not bring a message like this into your life unless something is about to shift with the force of destiny. This moment is the evidence that heaven has already started moving things behind the scenes. There are things God is adjusting, realigning, removing, revealing, strengthening, and establishing for you. You may not see it physically yet, but spiritually, the foundation has already been poured. You may not feel it emotionally yet, but the shift has already begun. You may not understand why now, but the divine timing is precise. Before the 29th of November, your life will undergo a turning point. And I want you to hear this with your whole being. You are not receiving this message by chance. When God pulls you into alignment, He doesn't do it quietly. He surrounds you with the signs. He speaks to you through inner conviction. He sends messages at exact moments. He places words in front of you that your soul instantly responds to. Even if your mind doesn't fully understand, your spirit recognizes it. That is what is happening right now. Something inside you is whispering, "This is for me." Something inside you is awakening. Something inside you is stirring. Something inside you is rising with expectation. This is God's confirmation that the season you have been waiting for is now unfolding. For months, maybe even years, you've carried the burdens that no one knew about. You've walked through situations that drained you emotionally and spiritually. You gave your strength to people who didn't appreciate it. You poured your heart into places that didn't value it. You gave effort to opportunities that didn't grow. You fought battles in silence that others would not have survived. But even when you were tired, you kept going. Even when you felt empty, you didn't give up. Even when you were unsure, you still held on. You didn't know it at the time, but God was watching closely. God was recording every tear, every sacrifice, every struggle, every lonely moment. Not 1 second of your suffering was wasted. Not one season of your pain was ignored. And now God is saying, because you remained faithful, I am shifting your life in a way that will make sense of everything you endured. Before the 29th of November, you will begin to see the evidence of what God has been preparing. It may come quietly at first, a moment of clarity, a sudden peace, a realization, an idea, an unexpected opportunity, an inner release, but it will come. And once it starts, it will not stop. Your life is entering a flow where divine timing meets divine order, where things that once resisted you start aligning for you, where paths that once felt blocked suddenly open, where relationships that once drained you fall away without pain, where confusion that once clouded your mind dissolves into clarity, where what you thought was loss reveals itself as protection. God is not bringing you into an ordinary season. God is bringing you into a season of spiritual elevation. There are 3 reasons why this message had to reach you before the 29th of November. First, God is closing a cycle in your life, a cycle of unnecessary battles, a cycle of repeated disappointment, a cycle of emotional exhaustion, a cycle of carrying people and problems that were never assigned to you. God is shutting doors behind you, not to punish you, but to protect you, not to limit you, but to release you, not to break you, but to rebuild you. This cycle must end so that a new phase of clarity and purpose can begin. God cannot place new blessings in a life that still entertains old burdens. Second, God is positioning you for increase. You may not feel ready, you may not see how, you may not understand the details, but God is not limited by what you see. God is preparing opportunities that require a stronger, wiser, more spiritually grounded version of you. That is why you went through everything you went through. Every painful moment built you. Every loss refined you. Every setback strengthened you. You are not the same person you were 6 months ago. You are more disciplined. You are more aware. You are more spiritually sensitive. You are more discerning. You can no longer tolerate what once trapped you, and that alone is proof of your transformation. Increase is coming because your character can now sustain what your spirit has desired. Third, God is revealing your identity. You have spent years shrinking yourself for people who are never meant to see your full capacity. You hid your gifts. You silenced your voice. You dimmed your light to avoid making others uncomfortable. You carried wounds that you didn't know how to heal. But God is saying, enough. Step into who you truly are. Before the 29th of November, something inside you will awaken. You will feel an inner strength rising, a confidence returning, a clarity forming. You will begin to see yourself the way God sees you, capable, chosen, protected, and destined. And now listen to this next truth, because it will shift your entire perspective. The enemy attacked you hardest during this year because God was preparing you for something greater than what you lost. The pressure you felt was a sign of your spiritual value. The resistance you faced was a sign of your potential. The isolation you experienced was a sign of your elevation. You were being separated, not rejected. You were being realigned, not abandoned. You were being transformed, not broken. Everything in your life has been leading to this moment. Before the 29th of November, God is going to bring you into a divine reset, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, even physically. You will notice shifts. You will feel lighter. You will think differently. You will see opportunities where before you saw obstacles. You will begin letting go of things that no longer serve your purpose. You will detach from people who drain your energy. You will release fears that once controlled you. You will embrace what once intimidated you. You will step into decisions with boldness instead of hesitation. Because the version of you that God is raising cannot live in the mindset of the version you used to be. There is a reason you felt disconnected from certain people lately. Your spirit outgrew them. There is a reason your heart felt uncomfortable with the old habits. Your purpose outgrew them. There is a reason some opportunities didn't work out. Your destiny outgrew them. God removed what you didn't have the strength to walk away from. And God is saying to you now, the shift has already begun. You may not feel anything dramatic, but spiritual change often begins quietly. The same way a seed grows underground before it ever breaks through the soil, your breakthrough has been developing beneath the surface. The signs were subtle: your growing restlessness, your desire for more, your sudden clarity, your increasing sensitivity to energy, your craving for peace, your pull toward silence and reflection. These were not random feelings. These were spiritual indicators that God was preparing you for transition. And now the transition is here. Before the 29th of November, expect three things to happen in your life. First, expect clarity. God will reveal something you couldn't understand before. A truth, a path, a decision, a person's true intentions, a hidden opportunity. Something that was foggy will suddenly become clear. It will feel like a veil lifting from your mind. You will look back and say, now I understand. Second, expect release. Something that has been weighing on your heart will loosen. A burden you've been carrying for too long will break. A fear you've been battling will dissolve. God will remove stress, confusion, and heaviness from your spirit. You will feel emotional freedom in areas where you once felt trapped. Third, expect movement. A door will open, a conversation will happen, a connection will appear, an opportunity will surface. God will send you signs that the next phase of your life is beginning. You will feel things accelerating. You will sense momentum. You will know that this is not coincidence, this is divine timing. And now I tell you this with a spiritual authority. Do not disregard what God is about to do because it feels unfamiliar. Growth feels uncomfortable. Change feels disruptive. Elevation feels isolating. Transition feels confusing. But do not fear it. Embrace it. Because God never removes anything from your life without replacing it with something better. God never closes a door without preparing a door that leads to expansion. God never asks you to release something unless He is preparing something more aligned with your destiny. The life you have been settling for is not the life God intends for you. You are not created for survival. You are created for purpose. You are not created to live in confusion. You are created to walk in clarity. You are not created to chase people. You are created to attract what aligns with you. You are not created to shrink. You were created to grow. You are not created to fear. You were created to trust. And God has been preparing you for a version of life that is bigger than what you asked for. That is why you felt the pressure. Pressure always precedes expansion. Pressure always precedes blessing. Pressure always precedes breakthrough. Before the 29th of November, your pressure will turn into elevation. This message is reaching you as a sign that God has already sent the shift. Your job now is simple. Align yourself. Align your mind by letting go of old beliefs. Align your emotions by releasing old wounds. Align your spirit by returning to inner stillness. Align your decisions with purpose instead of fear. Align your expectations with the future instead of the past. God is telling you, prepare yourself. What is coming is greater than what you lost. You survived what was meant to break you. You overcame what was meant to destroy you. You outlasted the storms that others didn't even know you were facing. And because you endured, you will now witness the manifestation of what God has promised. The next chapter of your life will be different. Your energy will be different. Your mindset will be different. Your boundaries will be different. Your relationships will be different. Your opportunities will be different. Your direction will be different. Your spirit will be different. And now, as you move deeper into this moment God has prepared for you, understand this. When God chooses a person for elevation, He does not begin with comfort. He begins with awakening. God stirs the spirit before He rearranges the environment. God ignites inner transformation before He releases outer opportunity. Many people ask God for change without realizing that true change begins in the invisible places of the heart. That is where God has been working on you, shaping you, refining you, strengthening you for the next phase of your journey. There are some breakthroughs that cannot be delivered to a restless mind. There are some blessings that cannot be placed in an unprepared spirit. There are some opportunities that require a new level of inner discipline before they can manifest outwardly. That is why you have a sensing a call toward stillness, a pull toward focus, a quiet desire to step back from distractions that once entertained you. You may not have realized it, but God has been purifying your attention, sharpening your awareness, and removing the unnecessary noise from your life so you can finally hear what He has been trying to tell you. Because before God elevates a person, He first clears their path. And the reason this message is reaching you before the 29th of November is because God does not want you entering this new season carrying old energy. God is urging you to release the weight you've normalized. There are habits that must end, fears that must die, and patterns that must break. Not because you are wrong or weak or flawed, but because these old structures cannot survive in the atmosphere God is bringing you into. You have outgrown what once limited you, and God is calling you to walk away from anything that keeps you tied to a lesser version of yourself. You must understand something essential. God is not only preparing a blessing for you, God is preparing you for the blessing. The transformation happening inside you is part of the miracle. The shift in your mindset, the maturing in your decisions, the strengthening in your boundaries, these are signs of divine preparation. You are stepping into a chapter where God is not just giving you answers. God is giving you wisdom to sustain the answers. God is not just giving you opportunities. God is giving you the discernment to choose the right ones. God is not just giving you peace. God is giving you the strength to protect your peace. And this is important because the next season of your life will require a higher level of spiritual responsibility. When God elevates you, He also increases your sensitivity. You will begin to notice things you once ignored. You will begin to recognize people's intentions more quickly. You will sense energy more deeply. You will feel when something is right and when something is wrong without needing explanation. This is God strengthening your intuition, sharpening your discernment, and equipping you to navigate the places He is taking you. Many people want blessings but do not want discernment. They want elevation but do not want discipline. They want visibility but do not want spiritual maturity. But God does not elevate a person who is not ready to carry the weight of what they are asking for. That is why the path to blessing often feels intense. God does not raise you without preparing you. God does not honor you without first refining you. God does not increase you without transforming the structure of your inner life. And listen carefully. The way God elevates you will surprise you because it will begin with the internal breakthroughs long before external breakthroughs manifest. People often focus on the outside material progress, financial blessing, open doors, but God starts with the heart. God starts with the mind. God starts with the spirit. Because if your inner world is strong, nothing in your outer world can destroy you. You are now in a place where God is strengthening your inner world. Fear is falling away. Doubt is losing power. Shame is dissolving. Uncertainty is breaking. Confusion is clearing. You are returning to the truth of who you are, a person chosen, protected, and guided by God. Not by accident, not by coincidence, but by divine design. And the deeper truth you must understand is this: God has already gone ahead of you. While you were worrying about next week, next month, next year, God was already preparing the place you are destined to enter. God does not guide you into the unknown without first securing the path. God does not call you into a new chapter without first preparing the resources, the people, the strength, and the clarity you will need. You are stepping into a future that God has already built. That is why you must begin walking with confidence, not confidence in yourself alone, but confidence in the one who leads you. When God directs your steps, uncertainty cannot stop you. When God establishes your path, obstacles cannot break you. When God is protecting your purpose, opposition cannot defeat you. You are walking with the divine covering. You are moving with the divine guidance. You are rising with the divine strength. And now let me go deeper. There are three spiritual forces that have been trying to hold you back: doubt, distraction, and delay. But God is breaking all three in this season. Doubt has tried to silence your inner courage, but God is restoring your confidence with clarity and conviction. You will begin to trust yourself again, not because your pastor was perfect, but because God has strengthened you through every mistake, every lesson, every trial. You will step forward with a boldness because God has placed certainty in your spirit that cannot be shaken. Distraction has tried to divide your attention, but God is narrowing your focus. People who drain your energy will lose access to you. Environments that dull your spirit will no longer affect you. Conversations that once stole your time will no longer interest you. God is giving you razor-sharp clarity. You will know what matters and you will protect it fiercely. Delay has tried to convince you that your breakthrough is far away, but God is compressing time on your behalf. What should have taken years will happen faster. What seemed unreachable will suddenly come near. What felt impossible will unfold naturally. God is collapsing timelines because your season has arrived. Your waiting was not punishment, it was a preparation. And now that you are prepared, the flow of blessings that was held back will begin to pour into your life. But this outpouring requires one more thing from you: obedience. Not external obedience, but inner obedience. Obedience to the quiet pull of God. Obedience to the wisdom God places in your heart. Obedience to the intuition that guides you away from what is harmful and toward what is aligned. When God speaks to you through conviction, follow it. When God nudges you to distance yourself from someone, trust it. When God pushes you toward a decision that stretches your faith, obey it. Obedience is the bridge between preparation and manifestation. And this is why your spirit has been sensitive lately. God is not only talking to you, God is leading you. God is rearranging things around you so that your life can align with the destiny that has been written for you. You may have felt isolated at times, but isolation is not punishment, it is protection. God separated you so He could speak to you without interruption. You may have felt misunderstood, but misunderstanding is not rejection, it is refinement. God allowed the people to misinterpret you so He could free you from the need for their validation. You may have felt uncertain, but uncertainty is not weakness, it is transition. God brings you into unfamiliar environments so you can rely on Him more deeply. Everything that has happened to you this season has been strategic. You were not losing, you were learning, you were not stuck, you were being prepared, you were not alone, you were being guided. You were not forgotten. You were being chosen. You will not enter the next chapter of your life carrying the wounds of the last heal. God is healing you in ways you cannot yet see. Healing in your thoughts, healing in your emotions, healing in your spirit, healing in your confidence, healing in your identity, healing in your sense of self-worth, healing in your relationship with your own purpose. Because God needs you whole for what is coming. What is coming requires strength. What is coming requires focus. What is coming requires trust. What is coming requires a renewed sense of who you are. You are not stepping into an ordinary season. You are stepping into a divinely orchestrated era of your life. An era where God is elevating you beyond what you thought was possible. An era where you will no longer operate from survival, but from spiritual authority. An era where you will no longer chase blessings because blessings will begin to locate you. An era where you will no longer bend yourself to fit into small spaces because God is placing you in environments that match your calling. And the closer you get to the 29th of November, the more you will sense this shift. Your spirit will confirm it, your mind will recognize it, your heart will receive it, your steps will align with it. This message is reached to you for one reason. God wanted to remind you that your story is about to turn. Your season is about to change. Your life is about to expand. Nothing that left to your life will be greater than what is coming into it. Nothing that hurt you will outweigh what God is preparing to bless you with. Nothing that was broken will compare to what God is rebuilding. You're walking into a chapter where everything begins to make sense. When you decide to walk with God, you discover that the greatest breakthroughs are born in the darkest rooms of your life. It is in the silence of your struggles that God molds you, shapes you, and prepares you for what your eyes cannot yet see. And this is why you must never fear the seasons where people misunderstand you, where opportunities seem to vanish, or where the path ahead feels hidden. God often hides you before He elevates you, because elevation without preparation is destruction. When God is about to expand your destiny, He will first expand your capacity. He stretches your faith, strengthens your patience, and refines your character, because what He is building in you requires endurance, not comfort. So do not be surprised when God pulls you away from certain people, places, and habits that once felt familiar. God protects His treasure by removing anything that threatens its purity. There are moments in life when God will isolate you, not because you are weak, but because He is teaching you how to stand in power without depending on anyone's applause. He wants you anchored in Him, not attached to approval. God does not train warriors in the spotlight. He trains them in solitude. And every time you feel unseen, remember that God is watching you with intention, measuring your loyalty, testing your focus, and sharpening your spirit for a future that will require greater strength than you have ever needed before. And as you grow deeper into God's guidance, you realize that the challenges you face are not punishments, they are invitations. Invitations to trust God more. Invitations to elevate your thinking. Invitations to step into the level of discipline, clarity, and self-control required for your next season. God uses pressure to unlock potential. He uses discomfort to push you toward purpose. He uses delays to protect you from dangers you cannot discern. What you call a setback, God often calls a setup for transformation. And every closed door is evidence that God is redirecting you towards something better aligned with your destiny. There will come a time when the very things that once intimidated you will bow before the strength God has built inside you. The fears that controlled you will lose their power. The wounds that weakened you will turn into wisdom. The burdens that broke you will become the testimony that elevates you. God wastes nothing, not your tears, not your pain, not your disappointments. Everything you have endured is being rearranged, repurposed, and recalibrated for your advantage. God is the master of turning your lowest moments into the foundation of your greatest breakthroughs. Listen carefully, because what I am about to say carries the weight of divine truth. God does not move slowly when it comes to those He has chosen, but He will always move in perfect timing. The difference between ordinary life and extraordinary life is knowing how to wait on God without losing faith. Waiting is not inactivity. Waiting is a preparation. Waiting is the sharpening of your vision, the refining of your character, the strengthening of your spirit. Every moment you feel stalled, every hour that tests your patience, every day that stretches your endurance, it is God's invisible hand at work, orchestrating events, aligning people, and opening doors that you cannot yet perceive. And if this message has reached you before the 29th of November, it is because God is alerting you. The waiting is over, the alignment is in motion, and the next season is knocking at your door. There is a profound spiritual principle that you must grasp. God never elevates someone by making life easy. He elevates them by making life intentional. The storms, the struggles, the lonely nights, the unanswered prayers, they were not random trials. They were deliberate, divinely engineered moments meant to teach you endurance, deepen your faith, and awaken your spiritual discernment. When the winds howl and the ground shakes beneath you, do not despair. God is teaching you how to stand unshakable, immovable, and unwavering. He is preparing your heart to handle victory without arrogance and success without compromise. The same power that brings you through the storm is the same power that will elevate you to the next level of your life. Now listen to this. God is not concerned with the mediocrity in His chosen ones. He is preparing you for abundance, influence, and authority, but not before. He equips you to steward it well. Many desire elevation, but few are prepared to carry it with wisdom, humility, and spiritual strength. That is why God has been removing distractions, clearing your path, and separating you from energies and influences that would have diluted your breakthrough. Do not see this separation as punishment. See it as divine calibration. Every person who walked away, every opportunity that faded, every door that remained closed, these were all divine acts of protection designed to make sure that when God's blessing comes, it comes fully and without compromise. The waiting, the loss, the isolation, all of it was purposeful. And if this message reaches you before the 29th of November, understand that the timing of your elevation has been carefully measured by the hand of God. And here is another truth. God always honors faith that perseveres in silence. The prayers you whispered in private, the battles you fought when no one was watching, the tears shed alone, they have all been recorded. God sees every effort, every act of obedience, every ounce of patience, and He is preparing to reward you in a way that will leave no doubt of His presence and His power. But this reward does not come through shouting, boasting, or seeking recognition from others. It comes quietly, powerfully, and inevitably, because God's blessings never rely on human validation. They rely on divine timing, divine wisdom, and divine authority. And the fact that you are still here, still listening, still committed, is proof that your faith is active and your spirit is aligned with God's purpose. Understand this, the battles you have faced are not meant to defeat you, they are meant to define you. The struggles, the losses, the setbacks, they are shaping the version of you that can handle victory with integrity. God is not interested in temporary success. He is interested in permanent transformation. That is why the breakthrough that awaits you before the 29th of November will not simply solve your problems, it will elevate your entire life. Your thinking will become sharper, your heart will grow stronger, your vision will expand, and your spirit will rise to a level you have never known before. Everything you have endured is now your foundation. Every hardship has laid the bricks for the house of your destiny, and now God is calling you to step into it with confidence. And this is where many people stumble. They expect miracles without preparation, blessings without obedience, and breakthroughs without refinement. But God's methods are always intentional. He prepares before He provides, He strengthens before He elevates, and He refines before He releases. That is why the moments you have endured in solitude, the trials you faced in silence, and the lessons you learned through adversity are not wasted. They are treasures of preparation. They have fortified your spirit, sharpened your discernment, and readied your heart for what God is about to reveal. Do not underestimate the power of alignment. God does not bless chaos. God does not elevate confusion. God does not honor distraction. God blesses order, clarity, and purpose. That is why He has been guiding your steps, shaping your decisions, and redirecting your path. If you have felt the pressure, that pressure is not a sign of failure. It is the confirmation that God is forming you into a vessel capable of carrying more than you ever thought possible. The discomfort you feel now is the preparation for comfort that lasts. The discipline you have endured is the precursor to freedom that sustains. The patience you have practiced is the foundation for abundance that multiplies. Everything is intentional. Everything is divinely orchestrated. And before the 29th of November, you will witness the fruits of that divine orchestration. And let me speak directly to your spirit. Do not allow fear, doubt, or uncertainty to steal what God has already positioned for you. When you feel hesitation, remember that God's timing is perfect. When you feel the weight of responsibility, remember that God has already equipped you. When you encounter opposition, remember that God has already gone before you. Nothing in heaven or on earth can alter the plan God has for you. And the sooner you embrace that truth, the sooner you will step fully into the life God has prepared, a life marked not by struggle, but by spiritual authority, divine provision, and unshakable peace. Before the 29th of November, God is calling you to rise with intentionality, to walk with courage, and to speak with conviction. Your faith must become active, your trust unshakable, and your vision clear. God is releasing a season where every step you take will align with His purpose. Every decision you make will resonate with wisdom. Every connection you form will reflect divine alignment. Every moment will carry the fingerprints of God's preparation, guidance, and power. And you will no longer be passive in life. You will be deliberate, intentional, and empowered by the one who orchestrates all things. The people who once doubted you, the situations that once limited you, and the opportunities that once delayed you, they are all shifting. God is realigning your life so that your next step are unstoppable. The chains that once bound you, the fears that once paralyzed you, and the uncertainties that once confused you, they are breaking. The darkness that once clouded your path is giving way to the illumination of God's presence. You are not merely moving forward, you are being lifted, carried, and positioned for a destiny that is greater than you have imagined. And now, hear this final truth with the authority of the divine. What you are about to enter is a realm of life where your spirit, mind, and heart operate on a higher frequency. God is calling you to operate in this season with heightened awareness, unshakable faith, and spiritual clarity. Nothing that once troubled you can touch you now. Nothing that once delayed you can stop you now. Nothing that once intimidated you can influence you now. God is placing you in a domain of alignment where every step you take is guided. Every path you walk is secured. And every blessing you receive is multiplied. This is your season of awakening, empowerment, and divine expansion. The message has reached you before the 29th of November for one reason. God is calling you to rise above fear, rise above limitation, and rise into the fullness of your purpose. And when you embrace this calling with courage, faith, and steadfast devotion, you will witness miracles, breakthroughs, and transformations that will testify to the power of God's perfect timing and perfect plan. Your journey, your struggle, your patience, and your perseverance, they have all led to this moment. And God's hand is not merely touching your life. God's hand is orchestrating a movement that will change everything. You are chosen, you are protected, you are guided, and your season of divine alignment has arrived. Do you feel as though your life is at a standstill? Do you wake up each morning with a heavy heart, wondering if all the prayers, all the efforts, and all the waiting will ever produce fruit? I want you to hear this with the clarity of absolute truth. God is working deeply in your life right now. Not next year, not when circumstances are easier, not when the world seems more favorable, but right now. God's work is invisible. God's work is precise, and God's work is unstoppable. Every delay you endure, every struggle you face, every silent night filled with unanswered questions is not a sign of God's absence. It is a sign of God's perfect divine orchestration. And when you understand this, when your heart finally grasps this reality, a fire will ignite inside of you that will never go out. You must understand, God's work in your life is not superficial. God is not concerned with appearances or temporary solutions. God is working in the depths of your soul, in the very fibers of your being. God is reshaping your character, strengthening your spirit, and preparing you for blessings that your eyes have yet to see and your mind cannot yet comprehend. Do you feel small? Do you feel unworthy? Good. That is exactly where God wants you. Because when you are weak, when you are humble, when you are stripped of your own power and your own pride, that is when God's power flows through you most fully. God does not work on the surface. God works in the depths, in the hidden chambers of your heart, where transformation is permanent, where preparation is complete, and where faith becomes unshakable. I know that life has tested you. I know the disappointments have piled up one on top of another, leaving you exhausted and disillusioned. Perhaps you have prayed, begged, and yet it feels like nothing has moved. But I want you to hear this clearly. God is not idle. God is not blind to your struggle. God is not waiting for the right moment to act. God is working in ways you cannot yet see, in ways that are invisible to the human eye. Every setback is a setup. Every closed door is God redirecting you toward your purpose. Every moment of silence is God preparing you for a breakthrough so profound that your life will never be the same again. Do not let your eyes deceive you. Do not let your circumstances determine your faith. What you see today is not the final picture of your life. God is painting a masterpiece in the hidden spaces of your heart. And while you may feel uncertainty, while you may feel fear, God is carefully laying every brush stroke. God is removing what is unnecessary. God is filling what is empty. And God is shaping what is imperfect into a vessel of a purpose, power, and destiny. You may not understand it now, but you will. And when you do, the joy will be overwhelming because you will see that every tear, every trial, and every moment of waiting was God's way of bringing you into alignment with your destiny. I want you to know something today. God's work in your life is not about the temporary or the superficial. It is about eternity. It is about the kind of strength that cannot be shaken, the kind of wisdom that cannot be undermined, and the kind of faith that cannot be broken. God is building something in you that no adversity can destroy. God is working in your life to establish principles, patterns, and foundations that will sustain you not just today, not just this year, but for a lifetime. And when you finally emerge from this season of preparation, you will walk with a power, a confidence, and a clarity that only comes from the hand of God. Listen carefully. The very things that feel like obstacles are God's tools of refinement. The very moments that feel like failure are God's laboratories of transformation. The very nights that feel lonely are God's quiet workshops, where your faith is strengthened, your spirit is renewed, and your purpose is clarified. God is not hurrying. God is not careless. God is meticulous. every moment, every trial, every tear is working in your favor. And when you finally see it, when the layers of preparation are complete, you will stand as a testimony of God's deep and perfect work in your life. Do you feel the weight of responsibility? Do you feel the pressure of expectations? That is the evidence of God's deep work within you. God does not give a significant purpose to unprepared vessels. God does not entrust great responsibility to hearts that are untested. God works in the depths to refine your character, to strengthen your resolve, and to purify your vision. What you are enduring is God's preparation. What you are experiencing is God's shaping. What you are feeling is God's guidance. And it will all culminate in a life that is unshakably aligned with divine purpose. Your faith is the key, not your talent, not your resources, not your connections. Your faith in God is the foundation that God builds upon. And sometimes the very challenges you face are designed to awaken a faith that is deeper, stronger, and more unyielding than you ever thought possible. When the storm rages, when the doors remain closed, when it seems like all hope is lost, that is the precise moment when God is performing the deepest, most powerful work in your life. Because God does not measure work by what is visible. God measures work by transformation, by preparation, and by alignment with divine destiny. You may wonder, why now? Why me? Why so many obstacles? I tell you with authority, it is because God is preparing you for something monumental. God is shaping you to carry a purpose, a calling, and a blessing that will not be given to the faint-hearted, the impatient, or the distracted. God is shaping a vessel capable of handling great responsibility, capable of enduring trials without despair, capable of shining brightly even in the darkest moments. Every delay, every disappointment, every difficulty is God's way of deepening your faith and expanding your capacity for blessing. Do not despise the process. Do not resist the refining. Do not question the unseen work. God's hand is moving even when your eyes cannot see it. God's wisdom is guiding even when your mind cannot understand it. God's power is preparing even when your heart is weary. And when you finally realize the depth of God's work in your life, you will see that every tear was worth it, every struggle was necessary, and every moment of waiting was an essential part of your divine preparation. Your life is not ordinary. Your calling is not ordinary. Your purpose is not ordinary. And God's work in you is not ordinary. It is profound, it is deep, it is transformative, it is unstoppable. God is working right now to remove what hinders, to fill what is empty, and to strengthen what is weak. God is preparing you to be a vessel of influence, a beacon of light, and a testimony of divine faithfulness. And when the timing is perfect, when every preparation is complete, your life will explode with the power and glory of God's unseen work. I want you to remember this above all. Patience is not passive. Faith is not passive. Waiting is not a waste. God's work in your life is active, powerful, and unstoppable. Every moment of waiting is an investment in the deepest, most powerful transformation you will ever experience. And when you finally emerge from this season, you will not only see the hand of God, you will feel the depth of God's work, the wisdom of God's preparation, and the overwhelming power of God's timing. You must understand today that the depth of God's work in your life is beyond human comprehension. God is not concerned with quick fixes or temporary solutions. God is concerned with the transformation that is permanent, with the alignment that is eternal, and with the destiny that cannot be shaken by circumstance, trial, or opposition. Every struggle you are facing is not random. Every delay is not meaningless. Every closed door is not rejection. God is orchestrating a divine sequence of events that will perfectly align your life with a purpose, prosperity, and spiritual authority. And the beauty of God's work is that it is often invisible to the human eye. You may not see it with your eyes, you may not feel it with your hands, but it is active, it is precise, it is unstoppable. I want you to hear me clearly. What is happening in the hidden corners of your life? The moments when no one is watching, the trials that seem unbearable, these are the very moments God is shaping your heart, your mind, and your spirit. God is purifying your character, removing every trace of doubt, every shadow of fear, and every fragment of hesitation. God is preparing you for a life of influence, for a calling that will impact the generations, and for blessings that will far exceed your imagination. Do not despise the quiet. Do not resist the preparation, for God's work is deeper than circumstance, stronger than opposition, and more powerful than you can understand. Some of you are looking at your life and thinking, I am too weak. I am too broken. I have failed too many times. God cannot use me. I tell you today, with the authority of truth, God specializes in using the weak. God specializes in redeeming the broken. God specializes in turning failure into foundation. It is in the places where you feel unworthy that God's work is most evident. When your hands are empty, that is when God's power is revealed. When your heart is broken, that is when God's wisdom flows through you most profoundly. Your past, your weaknesses, and even your failures are not obstacles. They are the instrument through which God is performing the deepest work in your life. Do not be impatient with God's timing. Do not measure progress by the speed of events. God works according to divine principles, not human schedules. God is patient, and in that patience, God is perfecting you. Every unanswered question, every delay, every period of waiting is God's opportunity to deepen your faith, to refine your spirit, and to prepare your heart to receive what is already destined for you. You cannot rush God. You cannot force God's hand. But you can align yourself with God's word. You can trust, obey, and endure, knowing that what God is doing in you right now is more valuable than anything that could happen outside of you. You may feel overlooked. You may feel abandoned. You may feel trapped by circumstances. But understand this: God is never distant. God is never absent. God is actively at work, even when the world cannot see it. The moments of silence in your life are not emptiness. They are God's workshop, where your faith is being strengthened, your character is being polished, and your life is being prepared for a divine manifestation. God's work is patient, deliberate, and strategic. Nothing is wasted. No tear is unnoticed. No struggle is irrelevant. And when the moment comes, you will look back and see that every difficulty, every waiting period, and every test was essential to the life you now possess. Faith is the vessel through which God's deep work flows. It is not enough to see God in times of blessing. The depth of your faith is revealed in the unseen, in the silent, in the waiting. Faith is active even when the circumstances scream otherwise. Faith trusts God's hand even when the path is unclear. Faith rejoices in God's timing even when the season seems long. And it is this faith nurtured in the hidden work of God that becomes the platform for miracles, breakthroughs, and transformations that the world cannot explain. Understand this. God is working deeply in your life to remove what hinders you and to strengthen what is essential. God is eliminating distractions, doubts, and destructive influences. God is filling your spirit with wisdom, your heart with courage, and your mind with clarity. You may not recognize it now, but God is preparing you to walk in a level of authority, blessing, and influence that cannot be replicated by effort alone. You are being shaped for a purpose, molded for destiny, and strengthened for victory. Do not fear the process. Do not resist the refining. God's work may be hidden, but it is profound. You are not in a season of punishment. You are in a season of preparation. You are not being left behind. You are being lifted up. You are not being overlooked. You are being positioned. Every trial, every disappointment, every period of waiting is God's hand at work, forming, shaping, and preparing you for a life that will be a testimony of divine faithfulness. God is working in the depths of your mind, renewing your thoughts, and aligning your vision with the divine purpose. God is working in the depths of your emotions, healing wounds, removing fear, and creating a heart that trusts fully, loves deeply, and endures faithfully. God is working in the depths of your circumstances, orchestrating events, opening doors that no one can close, and closing doors that would have hindered your destiny. And this work is not superficial. It is transformative. It is deep. It is permanent. Do you realize that the hidden work of God in your life is producing strength that cannot be taken away, peace that cannot be shaken, and wisdom that cannot be bought? God is preparing you to stand unmovable, unshakable, and unbreakable. God is creating in you a spirit that will not be deterred by adversity, delayed by difficulty, or distracted by doubt. The work that God is doing now is deep work, essential work, and life-changing work that will become the foundation for every blessing, every breakthrough, and every divine appointment in your life. You must understand this. The work God is doing in your life is invisible to the world, but it is real, it is powerful, and it is permanent. God does not work superficially, and God does not act carelessly. Every circumstance you encounter, every trial you endure, every moment of waiting is a divine tool in the hands of the Almighty. God is chiseling away what is unnecessary, strengthening what is essential, and laying foundations that will withstand the storms of life. And here is the truth you must hold on to. When God is at work, nothing is wasted, nothing is random, and nothing is too small to matter. I know that sometimes your heart grows weary. I know that the nights feel long and your spirit cries out for relief. But listen carefully. God's work is strongest when you are weakest. God's wisdom flows most fully when your understanding falters. God's power manifests most clearly when your own strength fails. And it is precisely in the hidden, quiet moments of your life when no one is watching that God's hands are moving with a deliberate and perfect precision. God is not ignoring you. God is not late. God is preparing you in ways that will forever change the trajectory of your life. There are moments when it feels like your prayers go unanswered, when doors remain closed, when opportunities seem distant. But I declare to you today, those closed doors are not rejection, they are God's protection. Those delays are not punishment, they are God's preparation. Every circumstance is being used by God to refine your character, expand your capacity, and deepen your faith. And when the fullness of God's work is revealed, you will realize that every trial, every tear, and every period of waiting was necessary to bring you to the place of your greatest purpose and blessing. God is working in your heart right now. God is removing fear, dissolving doubt, and replacing uncertainty with clarity. God is aligning your thoughts with divine wisdom, preparing your spirit to handle authority, influence, and responsibility. What you feel as a struggle is God's way of producing strength. What you feel as delay is God's way of producing timing. What you feel as weakness is God's way of producing endurance. And this work is deep. This work is hidden, but it is eternal and it is perfect. You may look at your life and see failure, setbacks, and disappointment. You may feel like nothing is moving, like your efforts are in vain. But the truth is, God is moving deeply, powerfully, and irreversibly. God is orchestrating events, positioning people, and preparing circumstances to align with the destiny that only God knows. And the most remarkable thing is this: God's work in your life does not depend on your understanding, your timing, or your strength. It depends only on God's wisdom, God's timing, and God's power. When God is working, the outcome is guaranteed, the process is perfect, and the result is unstoppable. Faith is the key to recognizing God's deep work. Faith is the lens through which you see the invisible, the strength through which you endure the unseen, and the assurance that God's hand is active even when your eyes cannot perceive it. The depth of God's work requires patience, trust, and obedience. It requires surrender to God's timing, acceptance of God's method, and confidence in God's perfect purpose. And the moment you embrace this, the moment you align your heart with God's unseen work, you will walk with a confidence, a power, and a clarity that no obstacle can shake. God is not only preparing you for what is ahead, God is preparing you for who you must become. The depths of God's work are transformative. They touch your mind, renewing your thoughts. They touch your heart, aligning your desires with the divine purpose. They touch your spirit, fortifying your faith. And when the work is complete, you will not only have a life of blessing, but a life of influence, authority, and testimony. Every hardship you endured will serve as proof that God's work is perfect. Every delay will be remembered as a preparation, and every challenge will stand as a witness to God's faithfulness. Listen carefully. God is working to remove what hinders and to strengthen what is essential. God is removing doubt, fear, and distraction. God is strengthening courage, clarity, and spiritual insight. God is positioning you strategically so that when the time comes, you will walk into your calling with power, wisdom, and authority. You are not being left behind. You are not being ignored. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. You are being molded. You are being strengthened. And when the fullness of God's work is revealed, your life will declare a testimony so profound that it will inspire generations. Do not despise the process. Do not resist the refining. Do not question the unseen work. God's work in your life is deep, transformative, and unstoppable. God is at work in your circumstances, even when they seem impossible. God is at work in your heart, even when it feels empty. God is at work in your mind, even when clarity seems distant. And all of this is for one purpose: to prepare you for a life that is aligned with divine destiny, filled with unshakable faith, and overflowing with blessing. Every tear you have shed, every obstacle you have faced, every moment of waiting is a testimony of God's deep work. God's work is not superficial, it is eternal. It is not temporary, it is permanent. It is not casual, it is deliberate. And when the season of preparation is complete, you will stand as proof that God is faithful, God is powerful, and God's work is perfect. Do you feel the weight of your current circumstances pressing down on you? Do you feel trapped by situations that seem beyond your control, or burdened by responsibilities that feel heavier than your strength? I want you to understand that today that these pressures are not signs of abandonment. No, these pressures are the tools God is using to stretch you, to strengthen you, and to prepare you for a level of victory that you could never achieve on your own. Every difficulty is a divine lesson. Every trial is a spiritual exercise. And every season of waiting is a sacred preparation. God is not merely observing. God is actively molding you into the vessel of a purpose that your soul was created to carry. There are moments when it seems as though nothing is happening, when every prayer seems unanswered, when every effort feels wasted. But the truth is this: God is always working, even in silence. God's hand moves in the invisible, in the hidden, in the depths where your human eyes cannot see. God is shifting circumstances, opening doors, closing doors, and preparing your path in ways that will reveal the fullness of divine wisdom and power. You may not understand it now, and that is by design, because God's work is about preparation, not instant gratification. When God is at work, the unseen is far more important than the seen, because what is hidden today becomes the foundation of the blessing tomorrow. I want to declare to you that every moment of struggle is a divine opportunity. Every setback is a sacred tool. Every delay is a holy intervention. God is not punishing you. God is positioning you. God is not rejecting you. God is refining you. And God is not passive. God is active, working with precision and purpose. The things that feel like obstacles are actually instruments of a preparation, sharpening your character, deepening your faith, and strengthening your resolve. The hand of God is at work in ways that cannot be rushed, ways that cannot be forced, and ways that are beyond the understanding of human logic. Do you see the hidden patterns in your life? The connections that appear coincidental, the doors that close just before opportunity, the people who enter and exit your life unexpectedly, these are not accidents. These are divine placements orchestrated by God to align your life with a destiny. God is working in ways that are too complex for the human mind to fully grasp, but they are perfectly designed to ensure that when the time comes, you are fully equipped to receive, handle, and steward the blessings, responsibilities, and the influence that God has prepared for you. Faith is essential to navigating this hidden work of God. Faith does not demand the proof before it acts. Faith does not require visible evidence to persevere. Faith is the bridge between God's unseen work and your lived reality. And when you cultivate a faith that trusts God's timing, trusts God's wisdom, and trusts God's power, you begin to move in alignment with the divine current that is carrying you toward victory. Without faith, the work of God remains hidden, unrecognized, and underutilized. With faith, the hidden work becomes a visible testimony, a living proof, and a declaration of God's faithfulness. You may feel inadequate. You may feel unprepared. You may feel overwhelmed by the size of the calling on your life. But hear this clearly: God does not call the equipped. God equips the called. God is working in your life to build strength where there is weakness, clarity where there is confusion, and the endurance where there is exhaustion. The work that God is doing within you cannot be hurried, cannot be manipulated, and cannot be imitated. It is unique, it is purposeful, it is divinely orchestrated, and it is preparing you for a future that is far beyond what your eyes can see and far beyond what your mind can imagine. There will be moments when your heart grows weary, when patience is tested, and when hope seems distant. These moments are not random. They are the crucibles in which God's work is intensified. The fire of a challenge is not to destroy you, but to purify you. The pressure of a trial is not to break you, but to strengthen you. And the silence of waiting is not God's absence, but God's preparation. Do not despise these moments. Do not resent these trials. Do not fear the waiting. God is working in ways that are deeper than circumstance, stronger than fear, and more powerful than the world can comprehend. Understand this truth. God's work in your life is never wasted. Every tear you shed is noticed. Every prayer you utter is recorded. Every act of obedience, no matter how small, contributes to the divine pattern of your life. And God's work is cumulative. It builds in layers, strength upon strength, wisdom upon wisdom, blessing upon blessing. The hidden work you do in faith, the silent perseverance, the disciplined prayer, the humble obedience, they are all essential components of the masterpiece that God is creating in your life. God is not only preparing you for external blessings, God is working in your inner life where the true transformation occurs. God is shaping your thoughts to align with the divine wisdom, refining your emotions to reflect spiritual maturity, and strengthening your spirit to endure adversity without despair. God is planting seeds of courage, faith, and resilience that will grow into a harvest of influence, blessing, and testimony. And when the fullness of God's work is revealed, you will look back and see that every hardship was essential. Every delay was necessary, and every challenge was a step toward your destiny. You are not alone in this work. God is with you, guiding you, strengthening you, and sustaining you. The unseen labor of God is active, relentless, and precise. It is not casual. It is not temporary. It is transformative. And it is eternal. Your life is being prepared for a level of blessing, authority, and impact that cannot be achieved by human effort alone. Only the hand of God can orchestrate such depth, such precision, and such permanence. Embrace this truth with your whole heart. God is working deeply in your life, and the process is as important as the outcome. The shaping of your character, the strengthening of your faith, and the alignment of your purpose are far more valuable than any immediate reward. Trust the hidden work. Embrace the unseen process. Persevere in faith. And when the season is complete, you will not only receive the blessings God has prepared, but you will become the living proof that God's work is perfect, unstoppable, and eternal. I want you to hear this with clarity. God's work in your life is never superficial. God is not interested in the surface level changes that fade with the time. God is working in the depths where your thoughts are formed, where your desires are purified, where your character is strengthened, and where your spirit is being aligned with divine destiny. The challenges you face, the setbacks that seem unbearable, and the silent seasons of waiting are not meaningless. They are God's laboratory, God's workshop, and God's training ground. And it is here in these hidden places that your life is being prepared for the extraordinary, the eternal, and the impossible. You may feel forgotten. You may feel overlooked. You may feel abandoned by circumstances or by people. But the truth, my friend, is this: God never forgets. God never overlooks. God is never absent. Every event, every person, Every situation in your life is being orchestrated with a purpose. The closed doors you encounter are God's way of redirecting you toward what is essential. The delays you experience are God's way of refining your timing. The hardships you endure are God's way of producing resilience and fortifying your faith. And while the world cannot see it, the work God is doing in your life right now is profound, permanent, and unstoppable. There is a principle you must understand. What God is preparing within you cannot be rushed. The unseen work of God cannot be forced or accelerated by human effort. It unfolds according to divine timing, divine wisdom, and divine purpose. When God works deeply, it is deliberate, meticulous, and exact. Every delay has meaning. Every trial has purpose. Every season of silence is a sacred period of growth and alignment. You cannot demand the results on your schedule because God is shaping a life that will function perfectly in ways you cannot yet imagine. Do you feel the weight of waiting? Do you feel the pressure of uncertainty? Good. That is exactly where God wants you. Waiting is not wasted time. It is the space in which God cultivates patience, endurance, and faith. Waiting is not weakness, it is strength in the making. Waiting is not stagnation, it is preparation. And here is the most powerful truth. When God's work is complete, you will walk into a reality so aligned with divine purpose that all the waiting, all the trials, and all the uncertainty will pale in comparison to the glory of the outcome. God is working in your heart in ways that are subtle but transformative. God is removing fear, doubt, and insecurity. God is instilling courage, clarity, and unwavering faith. God is shaping your character so that when opportunity comes, you will not be swayed by pressure, seduced by shortcuts, or shaken by opposition. The spiritual maturity that God is cultivating within you is more valuable than any external success, for it is the foundation upon which your life's destiny will be built. God's preparation ensures that when the time comes, you will not only succeed, you will thrive. You must understand, God is also working in your circumstances. The things that seem like obstacles are actually instruments of alignment. The doors that appear closed are doors that redirect you to God's perfect path. The disappointments that feel heavy are the exact weight needed to strengthen your resolve, sharpen your vision, and expand your capacity for blessing. Nothing in your life is random. Nothing is meaningless. Everything is orchestrated by God with the divine intelligence and purpose. And when the timing is right, you will see the beauty of God's invisible work unfold in ways that will leave you in awe. Faith is your key to accessing the fullness of God's work. Faith is not passive. Faith is not a quiet hope that waits for circumstances to change. Faith is an active trust in God's unseen work. Faith chooses to believe when the evidence is not visible. Faith perseveres when the path seems unclear. Faith honors God in the silence and praises God in the waiting. And when faith is activated, it becomes the channel through which God's deepest work manifests in your life. Without faith, the invisible work remains hidden. With the faith, it becomes the most powerful reality you have ever experienced. You may feel inadequate. You may feel unprepared. You may feel unworthy of the blessings God has promised. But hear me, God does not call the equipped. God equips the called. God is working in your life to transform your weaknesses into strengths, your fears into courage, and your doubts into unshakable confidence. What you perceive as limitation is the very space where God's power flows most fully. What you perceive as inadequacy is the exact ground where God's strength is perfected. And what you perceive as delay is the precise timing God is orchestrating to ensure that every step you take is aligned with destiny. Do not despise the process. Do not resist the refining. Do not fear the unseen work of God. Your challenges, your delays, and your struggles are the tools through which God is producing endurance, wisdom, and spiritual authority. Every moment of waiting is not wasted. Every moment of trial is not meaningless. Every tear is not unnoticed. God's work is deep, deliberate, and divine. It is producing a life that will stand as a testimony to the faithfulness, power, and perfection of God. And I want you to understand this. God's work is cumulative. It builds layer upon layer, day by day, trial by trial, season by season. The faith you cultivate in the hidden moments becomes strength for the public moments. The endurance you develop in struggle becomes courage in opportunity. The patience you practice in waiting becomes wisdom in action. And when the fullness of God's work is revealed, you will look back and see that every trial was necessary, every delay was purposeful, and every challenge was a step toward the destiny God prepared just for you. Your life is not ordinary. Your calling is not ordinary. Your struggles are not meaningless. Your waiting is not wasted. God is working in you in ways that are invisible but powerful, subtle but transformative, quiet but eternal. God is preparing you to walk into a life of authority, influence, and blessing that you cannot yet fully see. God is shaping your heart, your mind, your spirit, and your circumstances so that when the time is right, your life will testify to the depth of God's power and the precision of God's timing.